because I think some women might even be in denial that they have an issue. They're programmed that this is normal.
UNC Chapel Hill came out with a study that showed that 3 out of 4 women struggle with disordered eating. Looking back, it's like, oh, that was anorexia. And I can tell you, Marina, I never in my life have gotten so much praise and compliments on my body than when I was at the worst of my eating disorder. We don't only normalize this, we celebrate this.
Today, I have the beautiful one and only Lydia Knight. She is the founder and CEO of the She Center, where she believes in revolutionizing the human experience through human skills training and female empowerment. Specifically, she offers executive coaching to leaders of every gender throughout the world and certifications in human skills of emotional intelligence, communication, and stress management. And her approach is really more effective than directive. She does top-down instruction and neuroscience and community-based coaching styles that facilitate internal transformation and in turn leads to permanent and external results, which is what we all want, right? We want one time, we're going to actually fix it, not do it over and over and over again. So I love this. And her past clients have doubled their income. They've gained promotions. They pivoted their careers. They've healed relationships, ended lifelong eating disorders, and more. And so Lydia is also a mom to a beautiful teenage daughter, which we're going to talk about, but so many varied things that you offer. And I'm just so glad to chat today. So welcome to the show.
Well, thanks for having me on, Marina. I'm so excited for what we get to create today for sure.
Absolutely. Well, I always like to dive in to find out, well, how did you get here, right? How did you become a coach? How did you come to create this company? What's your backstory?
Yeah, so my motherhood journey is a big part of it. I grew up Mormon. And so once I had a child, I was discouraged from like working out in the world. But I'd been working since I was 11 years old. And that was a very important identity piece for me. And so I was like, well, I'll work from home. And that was a bit of a loophole. So I started working from home. I started as a health coach, and that grew very, very quickly. So became one of the top 1% of health coaches in the United States. I trained hundreds of health coaches, thousands of clients, and it blew up very quickly. But what I realized after a while, and these are the hard truths that are important pivotal points, is that what I was doing as a health coach, it was really weight loss coaching. And restrictive dieting is the number one cause of eating disorders. And I developed my own awful eating disorder. And I tried to keep it a secret for years because I'm a health coach, so I'm not supposed to have an eating disorder. And through finding solutions for myself and, thousands of others was really the main thing that launched the She Center, where it's about empowerment and where it's about being able to have a relationship with our brains that are all different and make an impact. So that's like the quick journey of how I got to where I'm at now.
Amazing. Well, it's so good to hear transformation number one, which I always feel it makes us the best to be able to talk to the person we used to be, right? Because we've been through it. And so do you mind shedding light on like what your eating disorder was specifically? Because I think some women might even be in denial that they have an issue. They're just doing it to do it, or they're programmed that this is normal. Can you shed some light on that?
Absolutely. And you said that so well, like we're programmed to normalize it. So, UNC Chapel Hill came out with a study that showed that 3 out of 4 women struggle with disordered eating.
Wow.
75% of women. And we see the same thing. And what's really important about that is the way they did the study was they asked women their real experience versus, are you bulimic or are you anorexic? Because you get much lower results that way, because we've normalized eating disorders. So for me, it started out as, I'm so healthy. I'm a health coach. Like, I'm going to cut out sugar and I'm going to take my measurements and I'm going to take pictures of my body and I'm going to have these regimented workouts. Yeah. And it felt at first like I'm just trying to do a good job. Like I'm trying to be a good person and I'm trying to take care of my health and look how we all should, right? These are all the assumptions in the programming that was in my mind that were very much taught as women. And it was just let's make more progress. Let's make more progress, to the point where it would have, looking back, it's like, oh, that was anorexia. And I can tell you, Marina, I never in my life have gotten so much praise and compliments on my body than when I was at the worst of my eating disorder. Yeah. It was a life-threatening situation. Wow. And strangers were coming up to me in the gym and being like, what is your secret? We don't only normalize this, we celebrate this. Yeah. So what happens when we're really restricted with our food is that our body has a biological response to keep us safe, which
Mhm.
is it creates really big hunger, really big cravings that feel out of control. So then I started binge eating. Then I was horrified that I was binge eating. And
Mhm.
then it went into bulimia because, well, I have to do something about it. I have to fix it. I'll just get
Yeah.
to the reset point. And so it really went from like anorexia to binge eating to bulimia. And I didn't know it was an eating disorder for many years
Yeah.
because I hid the things I was ashamed of and got praised for the results
Mhm.
of hurting myself.
Yeah. Wow. What a story. I mean, and just an emotional and physical roller coaster, too, to be honest. Like, it's an emotional roller coaster just mentally, let alone what your body is going through, And so that's pretty crazy. When it comes to New Year's resolutions, I feel like it's usually weight loss focused, right? So we think fresh start, let's jump on the scales. What is your ideology about the scales?
So it's interesting because there's this programming that we have around the
Yeah.
scale of, well, I need to know. Like I need to know the number
Mhm.
so that nothing gets too out of hand, so I can keep myself in control. And we're really taught as women to control ourselves, like
Mhm.
keep everything in check and know your stats and don't let things go too far and don't let yourself go. Even thinking of that phrase, like letting our where are you going?
Yeah.
And honestly, letting ourselves go oftentimes leads to freedom.
Yeah.
So
Never be
when it,
free. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So when it comes to the scale, if you step on the scale, if it's the same, oftentimes, if we're trying to make efforts, then we feel bad because it's the same and it's not lower.
Hmm.
If it's lower, then we feel cravings of like, oh, well, it's making progress. Maybe I can, eat a little bit here, cheat a little bit here. And then it turns into that cycle that's negative. And then if it's up, then it feels like an emergency because we have to do something about it. So what's interesting about the scale is that one, truly, it doesn't matter.
Hmm.
I haven't known what my weight is for years and years. And look, I'm here to tell the tale.
Yeah.
I'm happier than ever. Like, we don't actually need the scale.
Yeah.
And what the scale is that it's giving our emotional state away to a number. It's
Hmm.
saying, let's see how I get to feel about myself today. And that repeated habit is one of the most damaging ways we can start our day.
Yeah.
So that's my philosophy about the
What you just
scale.
listed is like all of those options are not a win. Like each one
Yeah.
is a punishment, And it's so crazy that we do that to ourselves over and over and over. So, how do we reprogram, I guess, our approach to our body, accepting it as it is today, but then also wanting to be a healthier version of us? Because I think most of our listeners are high performers. So, we're like, give me the checklist, tell me what to do, I'll fix my life. How do we reprogram that?
Yeah, so Virgie Tovar has a great statement that goes a little something like, what the diet industry has done is it's taken these fundamental human needs, like moving our body and nourishing ourselves and eating food that are just like, I'm embellishing a bit, but the things that are human to us. And what the diet industry does is it sells it back to us as diet and exercise.
True.
I remember when my daughter was little and like the washing machine was going and it was sort of off balance. So it was making that clunk, clunk,
Yeah.
clunk sound. And she just started like doing a little dance, right? Because it's like, as
Yeah.
human beings, yeah, we move, we hear
Yeah.
rhythm and we love it. And so it's so important to come at it from that perspective of nourishing myself and moving my body, doing things that are healthy, are human and wonderful.
Yeah.
And it's not something where we conflate health and weight so much. And the truth is that you can be healthy at lots of different sizes and shapes, and there is no right size or shape. And when
Yeah.
we wrap those two things together, that's when it turns toxic.
Yeah, that's true. That's really good. And I think also just re-examining where we're getting our inspiration from. It probably shouldn't come from the diet industry, or from the fitness model who's 20 and hasn't had 3 kids, like really finding healthy examples of what normal is. But it's not to say like I think I can go into my 40s and be the healthiest version I've been. So I think also just reframing what does this age look like for me in my body in this season of life. It's going to be different for everybody. And so that's something really exciting to look forward to. But it is so hard because every day we check our social and it's like another skinny girl, another this. And it's because our past definition tells us that that's what we want. So we have to constantly be like, oh, hard stop, repivot. What are we looking at? It is so hard. Hey, ladies, real quick, if you are looking for a mentor, I just wanted to remind you that I offer mentorship to entrepreneurs. So if you're someone who has a never ending to do list and you're spiraling out of control and feel like your business doesn't have a track plan, I want to work with you every single week for a month at a time. It's super simple, but I come from over 10 years of experience doing this myself, and now I'm willing to give that information back to people. So I've mentored real estate agents, I've mentored wedding photographers, I've mentored other business owners, and they've come from a place of overwhelm mostly, and they really just needed clarity and a couple of action steps to move the needle, and we've seen gigantic leaps and bounds in their business, like I can't even tell you. So if you're interested and you want to know what that looks like, I want you to go to marinatolentino.com, and there's a Calendly link there to do a 15-minute discovery call with me just to see if we're a good vibe check, to make sure we're on the same page, and I would love to work with you one-on-one to really boost your business to the next level. Let's dive back in. Well, you are a girl mom. And so I wanted to ask, now that she's in her teenage years, how have you kind of taught her to think about body image and maybe like contrasting with what her peers are going through? I mean, teenage years are puberty and a little bit all over the place, right? So my kids are young. I've got a 4-year-old and a 9-year-old. I'm not there yet, but I know it's coming. So I'm curious to hear what you've experienced and how you're kind of helping her shape that view.
Oh, for sure. Because I think especially as moms and moms of girls, like we want better for them than we've had for ourselves. We want them to grow up with a really healthy body image.
Mm.
And here's the truth, but sometimes some hard news
Yeah.
is that our daughters pick up on their view of their body, their view of food, almost exclusively from how we feel about our body and our relationship with food. And I know that as moms, we're like, we tell our girls they're beautiful and we tell them that every body is a fine body. And, we tell them the right answers. But what they're actually going to do is way more based off of how is our relationship with food? How do we talk about our own bodies? Are we canceling outings because we feel bad in our clothes? Are we restricting food? Are we having these cheat days and then trying to make up for it the next day? They're going to look at that behavior in our relationship. So the best things that we can do for our daughters is to be the kind of women that we would want them to be in the way that we feel and our relationship with food.
Yeah, that's such a good example. It's just a reflection. So if you don't like how you're treating yourself, then maybe we need to reevaluate because we want our daughters to feel better, which leads into being the best version of ourselves. So that's what you do as a coach and help other women do that. And I think, again, we have the same audience. So it's women between usually age 30 up to 50 who are mid-career, right? We're hitting the most income we've received yet. We're really hitting our stride. And we definitely value the personal development. We usually have a coach or some kind of accountability in place with our career because we know we need it. What is a common thread that you're hearing from clients, or like what's an issue that keeps coming up? Do you have any like context on that?
Oh, absolutely. So what we have found in the 9,000 clients that we've coached, that the number one most effective way to have that transformation, to be the highest versions of ourselves, is to work with our own programming that we've been given by society and change that programming so that instead of just saying, oh, I'll just do what other people want, or I'll just take what I've been given as truth, to get in touch with our authenticity and to examine that, and then to create the life and the patterns that we want of our choosing, because that's where our satisfaction, that's where our light is.
Mm-hmm.
So the number one theme that we see why people come to us and want that transformation in such an effective way is because there's something from your past that is polluting your present.
Mm-hmm.
Where someone told you you were too much or not enough, or how dare you make more money than your parents did, or, well, if people found out if you were successful, then you're going to be bragging. There are these pieces of programming that are keeping us from moving forward. And so being able to see what those are and to change those and to transform those is one of the most direct ways to do that. And one of the biggest problems we see, because the programming that we're given is not to serve us, it's to keep the same systems in place that have been in place.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm glad you touched on that, because usually you'll go into if you're new to personal development or new to a coach, you think, oh, I'm just going to work my business. And it turns emotional really, really quickly. Oh, we're going there. We're going deep, And it's because nobody has a perfect childhood. Nobody has a perfect anything. And so we all have stuff that we've kept on and baggage, and we these mental roadblocks that have just been cemented that we do have to break through. And so much of it is just lies that we've told ourselves. And it really is sometimes the silliest stuff that's like keeping you from going to that next level or that next freedom. And so it's just, yeah, identifying. I mean, let's go into identity real quick. So that perspective comes with that baggage, right? So we're coming to a coach with stuff that are lies. We think this is who we are. We think what we do is who we are, which is another issue. How do you framework identity and what does that look like?
Yes. So identity is this feeling of this is who I am. And in some ways, that's going to serve us. And in some ways, it's not, depending on how you fill in that blank. Like, who are you? And so we put labels on ourselves. And I think you made such a great point where a lot of times what we do becomes that identity label. Like if you ask someone who you are, a lot of times they will say, especially as women, your roles, you're doing, like, this is what I do for career. I'm a mom to whoever. And to have an intentional identity is such a big deal because our results don't match really our action, which I know, like, we all think if we can just effort harder, and I know this is part of your story, it's like if I can just effort harder and work more, I'll get the results. But it's not about what you're doing, it's about who you're being. And who you're being is that identity. And you form that identity with who you're being in an intentional way to be a match with the results that you want in life and how you want to live and how you want to feel. So identity is one of the most direct ways to get what you want in life because you decide what you want authentically and then you build an identity that matches that.
Yeah. Oh, that's so good. So it makes me go back to like New Year's resolutions. We usually think of all the things we have to accomplish this year as our resolutions. Like, let's make a to-do list. And instead, let's become list. Like, who do I want to become by the end of the year? I think that would be so good. Just reshift. Like, how do I want to feel emotionally? Who do I want to show up as at the dinner table? What kind of version of me am I? Not what did I accomplish? How much money did I make? How many clients did I serve? Like, we're throwing that out the window. It's going to happen anyways. But who am I going to be to those clients as I go throughout the year? I think that is really important. So good. And then I wanted to hear too, like, it's just an interesting time. I feel like in entrepreneur life, like we went through the girl boss era, right? So that was like the 20 teens, I guess you could say. Girl boss. And I feel like pandemic, we had a reset. Everybody kind of had an instant stop and reset. But now that we're picking up, it's 5 years after, which is kind of crazy. What kind of trends are you seeing with women working and like how has it changed in your perspective? Or are we doing it any better? What do you think?
Yeah. Oh, that's a really great question. So looking at that journey, I love that awareness of like we went girl boss to reset. Something that came up in the pandemic that is really useful is that a lot of us got more in line with our values. Because our day-to-day was changed so much, we had to make more intentional decisions. Yeah. So a big theme that we're seeing is that there's a new awareness of who we are, what we want, what our values are. Mm-hmm. And on the other side of that, or, with that is a bit of this crisis of, well, what do I do now? Like it's a bit of an upheaval time where we've committed to, this is who I am and this is who I want, and I'm not going to settle for this anymore. And I want things to be better. So what, like, do I blow up my life? Do I make a career change? Like, is that going to change my relationship? Like there's a who am I? And now what do I do? Once I'm more clear on my values. So it's a really good thing, but it's a bit of a messy time and it's a bit of a turbulent time because we're all thinking there's a lot of career pivots. There's a lot of moves, to a different place that feels more aligned. Yeah, and that's an important thing to navigate well.
Yeah, no, that's really good. Hey, I'm sorry to interrupt, and I hope you're enjoying this episode of the Work Like a Mother podcast. Real quick, I just want to remind you guys, if you are worried about missing an episode, you don't have to worry anymore because we are creating a weekly email that's going to go out automatically every single time there's a brand new episode. And this email is going to have everything you need to know about this week's featured guest. It's going to have all of the links and the resources that we're going to talk about in this episode. So you don't have to go around and fumble through the show notes, but it's going to be served in your inbox every single week. So if you guys want that access, be sure to click below one time in the show notes today. Sign up for that email, and then you'll never have to worry about it in the future. And bonus, if you really love this, we'd love it if you share this with a friend. Give us a review on whatever platform you're listening to, and we'll continue to bring new episodes and new information that's going to help you level up your life every single week. What advice do you have for someone who's in that messy season? Like, how do they navigate out of it? Is there anything you guide them through with questions at all? Like, how do they make a matter of it, you know?
Yeah, that's a great question. So one is, and this is going to be a bit of a maybe unexpected answer, but it's a really good place to start.
Yeah.
Get more play into your life.
Oh, love it. Yes.
Because when we have a messy season, a lot of times we want to go into more work and more effort and more doing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like trying to fix the problem with like the same state that created the problem or the turbulence. So to use our brains and our bodies in a different way, where we're in a more play state,
Mm-hmm.
is a great way to get more in touch with the clarity of what's authentic to us versus doing the whack-a-mole of like, I just have to do things and like be in action all the time. So being in a state of play. So the question would be like, how can you get more play in your life? What do you need to arrange so that you feel comfortable in play? Right? Like you might need to delegate some things. You might need to have someone, who has your kids or is delegating some things with work so that you have a little bit more space with play. And then after you get into that place of play, to really find a community that is moving through this so you're not alone.
Mm-hmm.
So, like you were saying, the importance of having a coach and that direction along with community, because we get a lot more clarity when we're in community and when we have that guidance.
Mm-hmm.
And I would highly suggest to find a coach, to find leadership with someone who's going to help you to find what is authentic to you versus the guru model of like, do these 25 steps of your morning routine every morning, just like me.
Yeah.
And yeah, I would definitely look for the more authentic coach that's going to help you find your truth.
Yeah. And that's a good point too. On the community is like, it can be so hard to find that community around you. Like specifically for me, I live in an agricultural zone. Like everyone's like 2 acres away. We're not bumping into each other on the road at all. Sometimes you have to buy into the community to find your people, and that's okay. And so it's totally okay to find like group coaching or a Facebook group that's going through the motions so that you can connect with someone that's in a different state and then have a really great phone call. Like take it offline too. I think more women need to do that, is like actually create relationships better instead of just like, oh, the DM here or whatever. Like we need deeper relationships. But going back to play, can you list out some ideas and inspiration for play? Because I think so many of us have forgotten what play even is.
Oh, that's so true. And we've probably both been on that journey as well. Like, I'm needing to figure this out for myself.
Yeah.
So sometimes we have this concept about play of like, I'm disciplined and I do work. And then play is just what I'm naturally going to do when I'm not working. Like I'm going to set aside this time and I'm just going to instinctually know how to play.
Yeah.
It's a skill.
Hard.
It's a
Yeah.
skill you need to practice. Like
Yeah.
you can ask yourself, do I feel comfortable? Like if I were to take tomorrow off, not effort, not do, not be productive, if I were to just take the day off and not work, would I feel comfortable in that? Or the whole day, would I be like, well, I should be doing some work, or like I have some time, or, it's like, what can I check off my list? So know that it's a practice. You're going to do this many times so that you get your nervous system used to being able to be in a play state and unplug from what you usually do. So know that it's a skill.
Mhm.
And one of my best tips for this is to go out in nature. Nature is a really interesting example of abundance and just beauty, just cause like, why not put like make 1,000 flowers and like, that's who I am. So there's a wonderful connection when we're out in nature, and there's also wonderful examples out in nature. So even a walk, not like to track your steps, but just like a leisurely walk in nature or being outside where you're not usually, bundle up if it's cold. But to be out in nature and to set aside that time and know it's a practice is a really great introduction to play. Because just being outside, looking around, is a good way to get your body involved and get you in touch with like that organic, oh, I can rest and I can enjoy.
Yeah. Oh, that's such a good one. And it's so true. So I started doing this like a couple years ago. I was like, I'm going to take a Sabbath. I'm going to take a full day off of work and just be not shop or anything and just try it out. And let me tell you, it was the most hard thing in my life to not check email, to not check DMs or anything, to just like be present with my family. And I was like, these are the people I love the most. Why is it so hard to just be here in the room? Like it's so challenging. And then to not clean and not like just hustle around the house, because we can do that. We can keep ourselves busy by doing nothing. We can still be busy all day, And then really just figuring out like what did I used to do before kids that was fun? And kind of going through like a checklist, like, oh, I used to paint. Oh, I used to knit. I used to have all these fun creative hobbies that are collecting dust or I don't have them anymore. And just bringing them out to be like, oh, yeah, I used to play piano. Let's just plunk around. Once you start doing it, it'll start to open up more of those like neurons of like, oh, yes, I remember this fun part of me. But for so many of us, she's buried. She's way back there, and we just got to bring her back to the surface. And I can tell
Well,
you,
you're discovering. Yeah,
yeah,
you're discovering her for the first time. Like I love that being able to go back and think, what did you used to enjoy? And for some of us, like I had an experience growing up where financially supported myself from the time I was 11. Like I was the only adult in my family since I was a kid. And
wow.
so for some of us, it's discovering that for the first time.
Yeah. Which what a breakthrough. Oh my gosh. If we can get there for more women, like so needed. But so much to look forward to. So these are all really good, I think, just reshifts, framework, perspective for the year. To focus on identity of who you're becoming, not what you're going to achieve. That's recap. And then to play more. I think those are two really good takeaways from this episode. To just like, have fun again. Like that is the point of life. If we're just stressing and doing, we're not living. So that's really, really good. What do you want someone to do after this episode? Do they go to your website or how do they get in touch with you?
Yes, absolutely. So we've got a fun place for you to land. It's our website, theshecenter.org/podcast. And that's a fun little shortcut to lots of great things. So we've got some books upcoming. We've got a double memoir that talks a little bit about my story and my dad's story, looking for his kids for 25 years.
Oh,
And then the deprogramming process, we have a book coming out called Thought Leader, which is, the principles you've been teaching for 14 years, all in a book. But then the number one thing that I would say is as we look for community and that connection, we have a completely free community where we do fun challenges. And it's a environment where you can be in that authentic place and really discover and be in that community and find your people from all over, right? Because it's digital. So you can go and join that community as well, which is really fun. So all of that will be on theshecenter.org/podcast. And that would be a great place to go after this.
amazing. And we'll definitely have that link below so they can easily click through. And then every episode, I end it with a fun rapid fire. So do you go to Starbucks? And if you do, what's your order?
I do not,
Okay.
but I can tell you my order at other places.
Yeah. What do you like to drink for beverages?
Okay, so Marina, I just recently discovered this, which I love. It's a dirty matcha. So I get like a matcha,
Yes.
but like a shot of espresso and like
I
lots
do
of
the
whipped
same
cream
thing.
on the top.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm like, oh, that's my new favorite.
Yeah. So good. What do you make for dinner if it's last minute?
Oh, I don't love cooking, and I have an amazing partner that cooks dinner.
There you go. So you say, I'm hungry. That's what you say.
Yeah.
Do you go to Target? And if you do you have a favorite designer there?
Oh, not usually, but I love getting clothes from like estate sales. It's
Oh,
really fun around where I live. Like there are great estate sales, and so most of my wardrobe is from estate sales.
that is a good hack. That's not something you hear every day, and I totally forgot about it. And then I'm starting to add this one new this year, but what city do you live in and why do you love your city?
Santa Fe, New Mexico. I love it so much. It has all four seasons, but sunshine all around the year. It has such a wonderful energy. Like it has a very like spiritual, grounded energy and amazing culture, and it's beautiful. Like we love it here.
Amazing. Yeah, year-round things to do, tons of nature. Love Arizona. That's awesome. Name a book or a podcast you'd recommend to our audience and why?
Oh, one that is a core of our executive coaching is The Untethered Soul by Michael Singer. It's one of the best books of knowing how to have an internal experience that you love and to like do life well. Like it's so good.
I've never heard of that one. Okay, I'm gonna look that up. TikTok or Instagram?
Oh, TikTok all
Yeah.
day long.
I saw
TikTok
you went
forever.
viral on one. That's awesome. Okay, and then what is your TikTok and Instagram handles?
Yes. So at the She Center is our company one, but I also have another one that's at Honest Story Time, and it's me telling stories of growing up in a cult. I have a crazy past, and I just decided to start sharing the stories, and it's blowing up. We've got multiple viral videos. It's been very fun to share. So if you want some crazy stories, feel free to go to Honest Story Time.
Okay, so good. You'd be a very interesting person to sit around a bonfire and just talk for 6 hours. I'm sure of it. You have so many stories. Well,
Thank you.
thank you so much, Lydia. It was a pleasure to meet you and hear so much about your journey. And I'm just excited for people to discover you and get on with their life and make it better, which is the whole point of this. So thank you so much.
Love it. Thank you for what you do and bringing us together. What a joy.
Yes, well, take care. We'll be in touch. Bye.